Today's video is going to be to try to repair this. Hello, welcome to ET Garage. I'm Eugene Tordo, and like I said, was saying, today's video is going to be repair this. Now, people aren't familiar with my YouTube channel. This is my 90 C4 Corvette. I have 287,000 miles on this car. Nothing is original. Well, a lot of stuff still is original, but there's a lot of stuff like the engine, trans, and other things, suspension, or not. But anyway, this subject for today is the defrost on the rear hatch. Every now and then these need repair, and in this case, this popped off after 35 plus years and 700,000 miles. Decided to pop off. This part here is soldered. Before I move the camera around and give you a better view, when it comes to these rear hatches, glass hatches on a C4 Corvette, depending on the shape of yours, you might be better off just sourcing another one. You can't get, as far as I know, you can't get new ones, but used ones are plentiful, and you could probably get a used one off like a low mile 96. From 84 to 96, the one thing that didn't change was this rear hatch that I know of. So they're all interchangeable. If they for some reason they're not, if there's some differences, let me know in the comment section down below. But to the best of my knowledge, there is that was one of the components that stayed all the same on the C4 Corvettes through 84 through 96. Lots of other things changed on the C4 Corvette through all those years. The body style changed a little bit, like the tail lights in the front fascia. The interior in 1990 changed, and then they made other changes throughout the years to the interior, and a bunch of other things that I'm not going to go in here, but go into in this video. But like I said, let me move the camera around, and I'll try and get you a better shot of what we're looking at. All right, I hope you can see this real well, but you can see on these sections here, they're soldered. In those spots I just pointed to, and you can see probably over here where this one's coming loose. And if you refer to the factory service manual, it actually tells you to resolder it. You know, use soldering paste or flux core, flux paste, and it says to clean it with steel wool and some flux paste and solder, and resolder it. So that's basically what I'm going to do. Now, it'd probably be better to do this by removing the hatch altogether and laying it on a table. I'm not going to be able to do that. It also says to make sure you disconnect the power leads that go to it. There's two power leads. I'll show you that here in a second to disconnect. Maybe you can see them right here. Let me move the camera around. There's these here, and there's one over here, and you can just remove those. Or if you look down there on each side, there's power leads there. You can just disconnect them there. That's not an immediate concern right now. Immediate concern is getting to solder these. Let me show you what I'm going to use, and also show you a picture from, or the page from the factory service manual that describes the repair, which basically tells you just what I told you. Clean with steel wool, use flux core paste, and then solder. But let me move the camera around again. I'll show you what I'm going to use, and I'm also going to talk about these too. If these get damaged, they make a kit according to the factory service manual, and it's like a tape, a special tape that you use to repair it, and then you heat it with a heat gun. I've never done one of those repairs. I don't need to so far. I just need to do this, and this requires soldering. So yeah, like I said, let me move the camera around and I'll show you what I'm going to use. Alright, this is what I'm going to use. I have a Weller solder iron. I highly advise you get a good solder iron, and these are probably the best. I will leave a link to a review I did of this. I compared it to a cheap one that I have. I did a video a long time ago on that, but I'll leave a link to it up here somewhere. And this is a very good soldering iron. Heats up fast, has 2 settings, and comes with different tips which help. And another thing you're going to want is some soldering paste or flux core paste. This is actually from that other cheap solder. It came with the other cheap soldering iron. This didn't come with flux core, any flux paste that I remember. And I got a variety of different solders. There are different types of solders. I'm not a soldering expert. I'm just going to use whatever I have and hope that works. And of course I need some steel wool, which I have over there. But I highly recommend one of these type of soldering guns, especially for something like that. This heats up quick. It'll handle heavy gauge wiring. That other one that I have that I did the video review on will not handle heavy wiring, and I'm pretty sure it may not be able to handle this either. I wouldn't know unless I try it, and I don't feel like trying it. I'll just use the good one. So let's move stuff around and see what we can do. Alright, I don't know if you can see it in this shot, but I have a towel protecting the surface here so I don't scratch the back of my car. Probably not a bad idea to put something down in here to protect falling solder from falling down onto the carpet or anything else. So I'm going to probably have to get something there, another old towel or something. It's probably better to use something non-flammable. I'll have to see what I can find. But hopefully you can see it and see how this polishes up. I only need to polish the areas that are going to get soldered. I'm going to solder them right where the factory did it. In my opinion, they probably could have soldered a few more spots. But it is what it is. This polishes up with solder, so it polishes up real quick. I have to say that. And of course we want to do this surface too. Yeah. Now I did think about just soldering the one end and then just gluing it. I probably could. They also make conductive glue. I'm not sure how conductive that glue is. I heard it doesn't handle real high loads, and I would imagine this heating element has quite a load through it. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but I'm sure it's quite something. Alright, I got that cleaned up pretty good. Let me get the soldering iron over here and hooked up. I got a good light source here too, that helps. And start soldering. What I'll probably do is I'm going to use some masking tape. I don't know if that will work. If I have to, I'll use masking tape and solder it that way, but I'm going to have to solder one piece, then another, and then another, and just work my way along. So, like I said, let me get the soldering iron set up and everything, and we'll get soldering. Alright, I'm all set up. I got my flux core, my solder, my heating gun, all ready to go, or soldering gun, and I guess we'll get going on this. Really should use a little brush for this. I don't have one. All Alright, from here I decided to just do a voiceover. Yeah, I applied the flux core, the solder flux core. I just used my finger. You should use a brush. But then I decided to try, and I want to build up, what I want to do is build up solder on the two surfaces that I'm soldering together. On the glass strip there, the strip that is attached to the glass, and onto that braided wire. I had a great deal of trouble soldering with the holding that braided wire and soldering. I originally just tried to do one spot at a time, tape it up, and then do it, and that didn't work. It just made it more difficult to get solder onto that braided cable, and I ended up having to basically just do it all over again. So what I ended up doing was hooking a pair of vice grips to the bottom of it. You'll see that here in a second. And I also switched to the thinner solder. That worked better than that thick piece of solder I had. There it is, where I have the vice grip. I then hold it straight and build up solder on that onto the braided cable. And then once I got that done, I just went ahead and started taping it and soldering it to the glass. This time I decided to just tape the entire length of cable. That made it easier and held it in place better. I then went ahead and heated the cable with the soldering gun. I had to do this, actually I ended up doing this multiple times in order to get them to take. And not all of them took, but I got the majority of them, and I said that was it. So let's continue the video from here, I guess. Alright, I'm hoping I can edit this in a way that will be helpful to everybody, because it didn't go as planned, like most things. And I have to say, it takes, practice makes perfect, especially when it comes to like welding and soldering. And it took me multiple attempts to do it, and some of them still wouldn't solder. Hopefully you've seen in the video where I took this long braided strand, hooked this to it, pulled it out straight, put solder on the end of the tip, held it out straight with the vice grips, and soldered each spot that I needed to solder there. I then taped it up, and I was able to heat it and solder. Some of them wouldn't take, no matter how many multiple attempts I did, and I stuck more solder under there, and it just wouldn't take. I'm glad I stuck this piece of cardboard down here. I don't know if you can see that, all the solder that fell on it. Even though cardboard isn't maybe the ideal thing, solder cools. If you look, the solder cooled before it even touched it. And I also have a lot of spray paint on here, which is usually engine spray paint, which protected it. Same with the towel. The solder cooled before it even touched the towel. That's how solder usually works. I did test it. Whenever you test your defrost, you can't just turn your ignition key on and press the defrost button. You have to have the engine running. Yeah, it will not work unless the engine is running. I did test it, and the way I tested it was I felt these wires get warm. That's how I know it's working. Of course, real test will be when if I take it out like in a cool day or a lot of dew. I do a lot of traveling, so if I stay at a motel overnight or a hotel and you get dew on the glass, and I do take trips in the winter, which makes it nice, especially nice to have the defrost windows, mirrors, the heated mirrors. Majority of Corvette owners, they don't drive their Corvette in the winter, so they don't never use it. If that's the case and this falls off and you never use it or never plan on using it, just glue it back up. Just find some type of glue, super glue or whatever, and just glue it up. But if you're like me and you want everything functioning, go through the trouble. I highly recommend you get someone to help you remove the glass and lay it flat on a surface and solder it that way. That would have made this a lot quicker and simpler except of course the extra time it takes to remove and reinstall the glass. You can do it like I did. It's very difficult. Hopefully you're better at soldering than I am. That's all I'll say. So anyway, I hope this video was helpful. Probably a little tedious and boring, but I hope it was helpful. And everybody have a great day, and God bless.